A Chill Night Story, Chapter 1, The Cabin on Low Battery. The rain tapped lazily against the roof of the old cabin, a soft, uneven rhythm that felt like it was trying to lull the world to sleep. It wasn't a storm, not even close, just a drizzle that had been going on for hours, the kind that made the air smell like wet pine and forgotten summers. The cabin sat at the edge of a small clearing, surrounded by a dense forest of evergreens that seemed to lean in closer as the light faded. It was the kind of place you'd find on a lo-fi playlist cover, isolated, cozy, and just a little too quiet. Inside, the glow of a single battery-powered lantern flickered on the wooden table, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. The cabin wasn't fancy, no electricity, no Wi-Fi, just a creaky floor, a stone fireplace, and a few pieces of mismatched furniture that looked like they'd been scavenged from a thrift store. The fireplace was cold tonight. Nobody had bothered to gather wood before the rain started. Instead, the four friends sprawled across the room, each in their own little world, tethered by the faint hum of a portable speaker playing a lo-fi beat. The track was all soft piano chords and vinyl crackle, looping endlessly like it was trying to keep time from slipping away. Milo was slouched on the sagging couch, his hoodie pulled up over his head, sketching in a worn notebook. His pencil scratched faintly, the sound blending with the rain. He was 20, lanky, with messy dark hair that always fell into his eyes. Milo didn't talk much, but when he did, it was usually something weirdly profound or completely random. Right now, he was drawing the lantern, or maybe the shadows it cast, he hadn't decided yet. The page was already half filled with jagged lines and smudged charcoal, like he was trying to capture the vibe of the night itself. Across the room, Nora sat cross-legged on a beanbag that had lost half its stuffing. Her phone was balanced on her knee, the screen dimmed to save battery, but she wasn't scrolling. She was staring out the window, her reflection faint against the glass. Nora was 19, with short, choppy hair dyed a faded pink and a habit of chewing on her thumbnail when she was lost in thought. She'd been the one to suggest this trip, dragging everyone out to her uncle's cabin for a weekend of nothing. No deadlines, no drama, just a chance to exist. But now, with the rain trapping them inside, she seemed restless, like she was waiting for something she couldn't name. On the floor, leaning against the wall, was Kai, fiddling with a Rubik's Cube he'd found in a drawer. The cube was old, the stickers peeling, but Kai's fingers moved with a quiet focus. He was 21, with a buzz cut and a flannel shirt rolled up to his elbows, showing off the tattoos snaking down his forearms. Kai was the calm one, the guy who could sit through anything without blinking. He'd brought the speaker and the playlist, curating it like it was a sacred ritual. Every so often, he'd glance at the others, like he was checking the room's pulse, but he didn't say much. The lo-fi track shifted to one with a faint saxophone, and Kai nodded slightly, approving. The last of the group was Jade, curled up in an armchair by the table, wrapped in an oversized sweater that smelled faintly of lavender. She was flipping through a dog-eared paperback, some sci-fi novel with a cracked spine, but her eyes kept drifting to the lantern. Jade was 20, with long braids and a quiet laugh that could light up a room when she let it. She was the planner, the one who'd packed snacks and extra batteries, but tonight she seemed off, her fingers tapping the book's cover like she was counting down to something. Maybe it was the cabin, or the rain, or the way the lantern's light kept flickering. "Battery's dying," Jade said suddenly, her voice soft but cutting through the lo-fi haze. She nodded at the lantern, which was noticeably dimmer now, its glow struggling to reach the corners of the room. Milo looked up from his sketch, squinting. "Already? Thought you said it was new." "It was," Jade said, setting her book down. "But this place eats batteries. My phone's at 20%, and I haven't touched it since we got here." Nora turned from the window, her thumbnail still between her teeth. "My phone's dead," she said flatly. "Died like an hour ago. No signal anyway, so whatever." Kai twisted the Rubik's Cube, the click-click-click steady as a metronome. "Speaker's still got juice," he said. "Maybe half an hour left. Then we're stuck with the rain for a soundtrack." The group fell quiet, the lo-fi beat filling the space. The rain pattered on, a little heavier now, and the cabin creaked as the wind nudged it. It wasn't creepy, not exactly, just off. Like the world outside was holding its breath. Anyone else feel like this place is watching us? Nora said, half joking. She leaned back, stretching her arms over her head. Like, not in a horror movie way, but I dunno. It's weirdly alive. Milo snorted, not looking up from his notebook. It's just old. Old places have vibes. Like, they've seen too much, so they get moody. Moody, Jade echoed, raising an eyebrow. That's one way to put it. My uncle said this cabin's been here since the 70s. Nobody's lived in it full time, just weekenders like us. Said it's got character. Character's code for haunted, Nora said, grinning now. She pulled her knees up, hugging them. Bet there's a ghost in the attic, knitting, or something. A chill ghost. Kai finally looked up, one corner of his mouth twitching. If it's knitting, I'm out. That's too much commitment for a ghost. The others laughed, the sound soft but warm, cutting through the cabin's quiet. For a moment, it felt like any other night, friends hanging out, trading dumb jokes, the world outside irrelevant. But the lantern flickered again, and the lo-fi track skipped, a glitchy stutter that made everyone pause. Seriously, we need light, Jade said, standing up. There's gotta be candles or something in here. Nora, you know this place best. Nora shrugged, unfolding herself from the beanbag. There's a storage closet by the kitchen. Uncle kept all kinds of junk in there. I'll check. I'll go with, Milo said, setting his notebook down. He stretched, his joints popping, and grabbed the lantern. Don't want you getting eaten by the knitting ghost. Nora rolled her eyes but didn't argue, and the two headed toward the back of the cabin, the lantern's weak light bobbing with them. Kai and Jade stayed behind, the lo-fi track looping back to the piano chords. The rain was steady now, a low hum that blended with the music. You ever get that feeling, Jade said quietly, not looking at Kai, like you're supposed to be somewhere else? Not, like, physically, but I don't know. Like your soul's lagging behind? Kai's fingers paused on the Rubik's Cube. He leaned his head back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. Yeah, he said after a moment. Sometimes. Like you're stuck in a loading screen, waiting for the next level to render. Jade smiled faintly, picking at a loose thread on her sweater. Exactly. This place is giving me that vibe. Like we're all just buffering. Before Kai could reply, there was a loud thud from the back of the cabin, followed by Nora's voice. Ow, crap. Jade and Kai were on their feet in an instant, the lo-fi track still playing, oblivious. They hurried toward the kitchen, where the storage closet door was open, spilling a faint glow. Nora was on the floor, rubbing her knee, while Milo stood over her, holding the lantern and trying not to laugh. Tripped over a box, Nora muttered, glaring at the offending cardboard container. This place is a death trap. Find anything? Jade asked, peering into the closet. It was crammed with junk, old board games, a rusted lantern, a stack of yellowed magazines. The air smelled like dust and mildew. Yeah, candles, Milo said, holding up a couple of half-melted pillars. And some matches. No knitting needles, though, so we're safe. Nora climbed to her feet, brushing off her jeans. There's more stuff in there, but it's creepy. Like, who keeps a box of old cassette tapes in a cabin with no player? Lo-fi ghosts, Kai said deadpan, leaning against the doorway. They're into analog. The group laughed again, but it was quieter this time, the cabin's creaks louder in the pause. They headed back to the main room, setting the candles on the table. Milo lit one, its flame small but steady, and the lo-fi track finally cut out as the speaker's battery died. The rain took over, a soft roar against the roof. As they settled back into their spots, the candlelight cast new shadows, sharper than the lanterns. Nora glanced at the window again, her grin fading. Okay, but for real, she said, her voice low. Did anyone else see something move out there? Like, just for a second? The others froze, the cabin suddenly too quiet. Jade's fingers tightened on her book. Kai's Rubik's Cube stopped clicking. Milo's pencil hovered over his sketch. It's just the rain, Kai said finally, but he didn't sound sure. Or a deer. There's tons of them out here. Yeah, Nora said, not looking away from the window. Probably. The candle flickered, and the rain kept falling, and the cabin held its breath. Outside, the forest leaned closer, its shadows blending with the night.
Buzz, like a monster, she said, breaking the quiet. Her voice was light, but there was an edge to it, like she was trying to convince herself. Just a broken bar, something, a shape, maybe a branch or whatever. Milo, back on the couch with his sketchbook, didn't look up. His pencil moved in slow, deliberate strokes, outlining something that looked like the window Nora was staring at, but warped, the glass bending inward like it was breathing. Branches don't move like people, he said absently, smudging a line with his thumb. But yeah, probably just the wind. Jade, still in the armchair, hugged her sweater tighter around herself. The lavender scent was fainter now, drowned out by the cabin's musty smell. Can we not start freaking each other out? She said, her voice calm but firm. It's just a rainy night, we're in the middle of nowhere. Of course it's gonna feel weird. Kay, leaning against the wall with the Rubik's Cube in his hands, twisted it once, twice, then set it down on the floor. She's right, he said, his tone steady as always. We're just projecting. Cabin's old, rain's loud, lights low. Brain makes up stories when it's bored. He stood, stretching his arms, his tattoos catching the candlelight. Let's do something, keep the vibes chill. Like what? Nora asked, finally turning away from the window. Her thumbnail was back between her teeth. A habit Jade had started to notice happened whenever Nora was antsy. We've got no music, no power, and I'm not playing charades in the dark. There's those cassettes, Milo said, nodding toward the kitchen where they'd found the candles. You said there's a box of them. Maybe there's a player somewhere. Nora raised an eyebrow. You want to hunt for a cassette player in this creepy-ass cabin? Be my guest, sketch boy. Milo grinned, a rare flash of teeth that made him look younger. Challenge accepted. I'm bored anyway. He set his sketchbook down, the page open to the warped window drawing, and stood, grabbing one of the candles. The flame dipped as he moved, throwing shadows that slithered across the walls. I'll go with, Jade said, surprising herself. She wasn't usually the one to volunteer for anything involving dark corners, but sitting still was starting to make her skin crawl. Someone needs to make sure Milo doesn't get lost in Narnia or whatever's back there. Kai snorted, picking up the Rubik's Cube again. I'll hold down the fort. Nora, you in? Nora hesitated, glancing at the window one last time. Nah, I'm good here. I'll keep an eye on the broken bar branches. She smirked, but it didn't reach her eyes. Milo and Jade headed toward the kitchen, the candle's light carving a small circle of warmth in the dimness. The storage closet was still open, the box of cassettes spilling out where Nora had tripped earlier. Jade knelt beside it, holding the candle close as Milo rummaged through the contents. The cassettes were a mix of handwritten labels and faded store-bought ones. Mixtape A78, Rainy Days Volume 2, Untitled Number 3. The handwriting was spidery, like someone had written it in a hurry, and the plastic cases were scratched, some cracked. These are ancient, Jade said, picking one up. The label read For the Night, with a little doodle of a crescent moon. Who even uses cassettes anymore? People who live in cabins with no Wi-Fi, Milo said, pulling out another box from the back of the closet. This one was heavier, metal, with a latch that squeaked when he opened it. Inside was a small, clunky cassette player, its buttons yellowed and its speaker grill coated in dust. Jackpot, Jade raised an eyebrow. You sure the thing works? Looks like it's been here since the dinosaurs. Only one way to find out. Milo grabbed a handful of cassettes and the player, and they headed back to the main room. Kai was twisting the Rubik's Cube again, the colors almost solved, while Nora had moved to the beanbag, flipping through Milo's sketchbook. Hey, hands off, Milo said, setting the cassette player on the table. That's private. Nora didn't look up, turning a page. Your drawings are creepy. Dude, this window looks like it's gonna eat someone. Maybe it will, Milo said, deadpan. As he dusted off the cassette player, he popped open the compartment, blowing out a cloud of dust that made Jade cough. Batteries are dead, obviously. Got any spares? Jade reached into her backpack, pulling out a pack of AAs. Always prepared, she said, tossing them to him. But if this thing plays Poltergeist FM, I'm out. Milo slotted the batteries in, and the player made a faint click, like it was waking up after a long sleep. He picked the For the Night cassette, the one with the moon doodle, and slid it in. The play button stuck a little, but after a nudge, it started. A soft hiss filled the room, followed by a low, warbling guitar riff, slow and melancholic. It wasn't quite lo-fi, but it had that same dreamy, nostalgic vibe, like music from a memory you didn't know you had. Not bad, Kai said, nodding as the track settled into a steady rhythm. The guitar looped, layered with faint static and what sounded like distant wind chimes. Kinda fits the mood. Nora set the sketchbook down, leaning forward. Okay, but why does it sound like it's coming from underwater? That's not normal, right? It's old, Milo said, shrugging. Tape's probably warped. Gives it character. Jade wasn't so sure. The music was soothing, sure, but there was something off about it, like a note that didn't belong. She glanced at the window, half expecting to see Nora's shape staring back, but there was only rain, streaking the glass in uneven lines. The track played on, the guitar fading into a soft hum, almost like a voice but not quite. The friends settled back into their spots, the music weaving into the rain's rhythm. For a while, it felt like the cabin was breathing easier, the candlelight steadier. But then the tape skipped, a jarring scratch that made everyone flinch. The hum stopped, replaced by a low murmur, words too faint to make out. What the hell was that? Nora said, sitting up straight. Probably just a bad spot on the tape, Kai said, but he was frowning now, the Rubik's Cube forgotten in his lap. Rewind it. Milo hit the rewind button, the tape whirring backward. He pressed play again, and the guitar came back, but the murmur was still there, louder now, like someone whispering just out of earshot. Jade leaned closer, straining to hear. It wasn't words, not exactly, and more like a pattern, a cadence, like someone chanting under their breath. Okay, that's not cool, Nora said, her voice tight. Turn it off. Milo didn't argue. He hit stop, and the player clicked off, the silence rushing back in. The rain seemed louder now, almost insistent, and the candle flickered like it was struggling to stay lit. Maybe the tape's haunted, Milo said, half joking, but his eyes were on the player, like he wasn't sure he believed his own words. Haunted, Nora scoffed, but she was chewing her thumbnail again. You're not helping. Jade picked up the cassette, turning it over in her hands. The moon doodle looked different now, less like a sketch and more like a symbol. Its lines too precise for a casual drawing. Who made these? She asked. Your uncle. Nora shook her head. No clue. He just said the cabin came with stuff, like previous owners left things behind. He never mentioned tapes. Kai stood, walking to the window. He peered out, his breath fogging the glass. Nothing out there, he said, more to himself than the others. Just train. But Jade wasn't so sure. The murmur from the tape was still in her head, looping like the lo-fi tracks from earlier. She set the cassette down, her fingers lingering on it. Maybe we should try another one, she said, just to see. Milo raised an eyebrow but grabbed another cassette from the pile, labeled Rainy Days Volume 2. He popped it in, and this time the music was clearer, a soft piano melody with a faint drum beat, like rain on a tin roof. No murmurs, no static, just music. The group relaxed, the tension easing like a sigh. Better, Nora said, leaning back. No creepy whispers. Let's keep it that way. They listened for a while, the piano blending with the rain outside. Milo went back to sketching, his pencil moving faster now, like the music was guiding his hand. Nora pulled out a deck of cards from her bag, suggesting a game to pass the time. Kai and Jade agreed, and soon they were playing a half-hearted round of Go Fish, the candlelight making the guards look older than they were. But as the night wore on, the cabin seemed to shift. The creaks were more frequent, the shadows sharper. The piano track looped, but every so often, there was a faint echo, like the music was bouncing off something it shouldn't. Jade kept glancing at the cassette player, half expecting it to start whispering again. Nora's eyes flicked to the window every few minutes, and even Kay, usually unflappable, was twisting the Rubik's Cube faster than before. Milo was the first to notice it. He paused mid-sketch, his pencil hovering. "You guys hear that?" he asked, his voice low. The others froze, the cards forgotten. The piano was still playing, but underneath it was a new sound of faint tapping, not quite in sync with the rain. It was coming from the back of the cabin, near the storage closet. "Probably just the pipes," Kai said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Pipes in a cabin with no plumbing?" Nora shot back, her voice sharp. "Try again." Jade stood, grabbing the candle. "Let's check it out." All of us this time. Nobody argued. They moved as a group, the candle's light trembling in Jade's hand. The tapping grew louder as they approached the closet, irregular but persistent, like someone knocking softly, waiting to be let in. The tapping echoed through the cabin, soft but insistent, like a heartbeat buried in the walls. It wasn't loud enough to startle, but it was wrong or too deliberate to be the rain, too rhythmic to be random. The four friends in Milo, Nora, Kay, and Jadia stood frozen in the dim kitchen, the candle in Jade's hand casting their shadows long and jagged across the wooden floor. The cassette player back in the main room kept spinning, its piano melody looping faintly, but the tapping was louder now, pulling their attention to the storage closet. Jade's grip on the candle tightened, the wax warm against her fingers. "Okay," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We're not just gonna stand here, right? Let's figure out what that is." Nora, arms crossed tightly, gave her a look. "You first, then." "I'm not opening that door and getting jumped by whatever's knitting in there." Milo snorted, but it was a nervous sound, his pencil still clutched in one hand like a talisman. "It's probably just the wind hitting something. Old cabins do that, right? Like loose boards or whatever." Kay, standing closest to the closet door, tilted his head, listening. His Rubik's Cube was tucked into his flannels pocket, his hands free now, fingers flexing like he was prepping for something. "Doesn't sound like wind," he said quietly. "To a broken bar even." The tapping paused for a moment, and the silence was worse, heavy with the weight of the rain outside and the piano's distant hum. Then it started again, slower this time, almost deliberate. "Top a broken bar tap, top a broken bar tap." Jade's stomach twisted, not from fear exactly, but from the uncanny feeling that whatever was making the sound knew they were listening. "All right, screw it," Kai said, stepping forward. He grabbed the closet door's handle, the rusty metal creaking under his palm. "On 3, 1, thought." "Wait," Nor hissed, grabbing his arm. "What if it's, like, a raccoon or something?" "Or worse?" Kai raised an eyebrow. "Worse than a raccoon? You think it's a bear playing Morse code?" Nora glared, but her grip didn't loosen. "I'm just saying, we don't know what's in there. This place is weird." "Kai." Jade held the candle higher, the light spilling into the closet's open crack. "We'll never know if we don't look," she said. "Kay, open it." "We're all here." Milo nodded, stepping closer, his sketchbook now tucked under his arm. "Yeah, let's just get it over with. If it's a ghost, I'm sketching it." Kai counted to 3 again, slower this time, and yanked the door open. The hinges groaned, and a puff of dusty air rolled out, carrying the smell of mildew and old paper. The candlelight flickered, barely reaching the closet's depths, but it was enough to see the cluttered shelves, the spilled box of cassettes, and a broken bar. Nothing else. No raccoon, no bear, no knitting ghost, just junk, stacked haphazardly like it had been forgotten for decades. The tapping stopped. "See?" Milo said, exhaling. "Nothing. Probably just the house settling or whatever." Nora let go of Kai's arm, peering into the closet. "Then why'd it stop the second we opened the door?" "That's not how houses work." Milo. Jade stepped forward, holding the candle out. The flame steadied, illuminating a corner of the closet they hadn't noticed before. A small trapdoor in the floor, its edges barely visible under a pile of warped magazines. The wood around it was darker, like it had been handled more than the rest of the floor. Guys," Jade said, her voice low. "What's that?" The others crowded around, the candle's light pooling on the trapdoor. It was square, maybe 2 feet across, with a rusted metal ring for a handle. The tapping hadn't started again, but the silence felt louder now, like the cabin was waiting for them to make a move. "Basement," Kai suggested, crouching to brush the magazines aside. The covers were faded, some from the A70s, others older, with titles like Outdoor Life and Mysteries of the Unknown, or maybe just storage in a cabin this small, Nora said, skeptical. Why would you need a trapdoor? That's some serial killer vibes right there. Milo knelt beside Kai, running his fingers along the trapdoor's edge. Could be a root cellar. Old places like this had them for food storage. My grandpa's house had one. Smelled like dirt and regret. Jade's eyes were still on the trapdoor, the candlelight catching the grain of the wood. For a second, she thought she saw something, a pattern, like the moon doodle on the cassette, carved faintly into the surface. But when she blinked, it was gone, just weathered wood and rust. Should we open it? She asked, not sure she wanted to hear the answer. Kai looked at the others, his usual calm wavering just enough to notice. If we don't, we'll just keep wondering, and if it's nothing, we can chill again. Nora groaned, rubbing her face. I hate this. Fine, but if there's a skeleton down there, I'm burning this place down. Milo grinned, setting his sketchbook on the floor. Dibs on sketching the skeleton first. Kai grabbed the metal ring, the rust flaking under his fingers. Ready? He asked, glancing at Jade. She nodded, holding the candle steady. Do it. Kai pulled, and the trapdoor creaked open, the sound louder than it should have been in the quiet cabin. A rush of cold air hit them, smelling of damp earth and something sharper, like cold metal. The candle flickered but didn't go out, revealing a narrow wooden ladder descending into darkness. The light didn't reach far enough to see the bottom, just a void that seemed to swallow the glow. Nope, Nora said, stepping back. That's a hard pass. You guys have fun with your horror movie sequel. Milo leaned over the edge, squinting. Looks like a cellar. Maybe. Can't see much. Smells like my grandpa's place, though. Jade's heart was pounding now, but she couldn't look away. The air from the trapdoor felt a broken bar heavy, like it was carrying more than just a chill. We need more light, she said. One candle's not enough. Kai stood, brushing his hands on his jeans. There's another candle in the main room. I'll grab it. Milo, stay here. Don't let Nora close the door on us. Nora flipped him off, but she didn't argue. Her eyes still on the trapdoor like it might snap shut on its own. Kai headed back to the main room, the piano melody growing louder as he approached the cassette player. Jade and Milo stayed by the closet, the candle's flame dancing in the draft from below. You think this is a bad idea? Jade asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Milo shrugged, his hoodie slipping off one shoulder. Probably, but it's better than sitting around, waiting for the rain to stop. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? We find some moldy potatoes? Jade didn't laugh. The trapdoor felt like a question mark, and she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. But before she could say anything, Kai was back with a second candle, already lit, its flame stronger than the first. All right, Kai said, handing the candle to Milo. Who's going first? Nobody volunteered. The piano track skipped again, a faint stutter that made Jade's skin prickle. The tapping didn't start again, but the silence was worse, like the cabin was holding its breath. I'll do it, Jade said finally, surprising herself. She handed her candle to Nora and took the brighter one from Milo. Just a broken bar, stay close, okay? Kai nodded, his jaw tight. Right behind you. Jade knelt by the trapdoor, the ladder's rungs rough under her fingers. The air from below was colder now, curling around her like a warning. She took a deep breath, the lavender scent of her sweater faint but grounding, and started down. The ladder creaked under her weight, each step echoing in the dark. Kai followed, then Milo, with Nora lingering at the top, holding the other candle. The cellar was smaller than Jade expected, maybe 10 feet square, with dirt walls and a low ceiling. The candlelight caught shelves carved into the earth, lined with dusty jars, some empty, others filled with dark shapes that could have been pickles or something worse. A wooden crate sat in one corner, its lid cracked, and a pile of old blankets was heaped in another, stiff with age. No skeletons, Milo said, his voice echoing slightly. Kinda disappointed. Kai moved to the crate, nudging it with his foot. Just junk, looks like. Maybe tools or something. Jade held the candle higher, scanning the walls. The dirt was uneven, like it had been dug by hand, and there were scratches in places along, then marks that didn't look random. Guys, she said, her voice tight, look at this. The others crowded around, the candlelight catching the scratches. They weren't words, not exactly, but they formed patterns, loops and curves, like the moon doodle on the cassette, repeated over and over. Some were deeper, like they'd been carved with force, others faint, like they'd been scratched by fingernails. What the hell? Nora said from the top of the ladder, her candle trembling. That's not normal. Who does that? Milo crouched, tracing one of the patterns with his finger. Could be art, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. Or a broken bar, I don't know. Maybe someone was down here a long time. Kai's eyes were on the blankets now, his expression unreadable. Those don't look like they've been touched in years, he said. But why leave them here? This place feels a broken bar lived in, but not. Jade's candle flickered, the flame dipping low. For a second, she thought she heard a tag again of the tapping, faint but close, coming from the crate. She froze, her breath catching, but the sound didn't repeat. Did you hear that? She whispered. Kai nodded, his hand already on the crate's lid. Yeah, let's open it. Nora's voice came sharp from above. Are you insane? You hear a noise in a creepy cellar, and your first thought is let's open the box. Kai ignored her, lifting the lid. The wood groaned, revealing a jumble of objects: rusted tools, a cracked lantern, and a small, leather-bound book. Its cover worn smooth. No tapping, no movement, just more junk. Jade exhaled, her shoulders relaxing slightly. Okay, no monsters, just a broken bar stuff. Milo picked up the book, flipping it open. The pages were brittle, filled with handwritten notes in the same spidery script as the cassette labels. Looks like a journal, he said, or maybe a log. Dates go back to the A60s. Nora leaned over the trapdoor, her candle dripping wax onto the ladder. What's it say? Anything about creepy scratches or haunted tapes? Milo squinted, holding the book closer to Jade's candle. It's hard to read. Something about the forced a broken bar and listening. Lots of stuff about listening. Listening to what? Jade asked, her skin prickling again. Milo turned a page, his finger pausing on a sketch, a rough drawing of the cabin, but with shapes in the windows, like figures standing inside. I don't know, he said, his voice quieter now, but I don't think it's the rain. The piano track stopped upstairs, the cassette player clicking off. The silence was deafening, broken only by the rain and a faint, familiar sound atop a broken bar tap. Top a broken bar tap. It wasn't coming from the crate this time. It was coming from the walls. The tapping in the walls was faint, like a secret the cabin didn't want to tell. It came and went, a soft top a broken bar tap. Top a broken bar tap that seemed to pulse with the rain outside, blending into the rhythm of the night. The four friends and Milo, Nora, Kay, and Jadia stood in the cramped cellar, their breath visible in the cold air, the candlelight flickering over the dirt walls and their scratched patterns. Milo clutched the leather-bound journal, its brittle pages open to a sketch of the cabin with shadowy figures in the windows. The silence from the cassette player upstairs felt louder than the tapping, like the absence of music had left a hole in the air. Jade's candle trembled in her hand, the flame casting jittery shadows that made the scratches on the walls seem to move. Okay, she said, her voice low but firm. We need to get out of here. This cellar's giving me the creeps. Nora, still at the top of the ladder, nodded vigorously. Seconded. I'm not staying down there with your haunted book and wall scratches. Let's go. Kai's eyes were still on the grate, his hands hovering over the rusted tools inside. We should take the journal, he said. Might explain what's going on. The tapping, the tapes, all of it. Milo closed the book, tucking it under his arm with his sketchbook. Yeah, but can we read it somewhere less or broken bar underground? I'm getting claustrophobic. The tapping paused again, and the silence felt like a held breath. Jade didn't wait for it to start again. She started up the ladder, the wood creaking under her weight, the lavender scent of her sweater barely noticeable now against the cellar's damp, metallic smell. Kai followed, then Milo, with Nora holding her candle high to light their way. The trapdoor slammed shut behind them, heavier than it should have been, making Nora jump. Jesus, she muttered, rubbing her arms. This place is trying way too hard to be spooky. Back in the main room, the group gathered around the table, the two candles now their only light. The rain was heavier now, a steady roar against the cabin's roof, and the windows rattled faintly in their frames. The cassette player sat silent, the Rainy Days Volume 2 tape still inside, but none of them felt like pressing play again, not after the whispers on the last one. Milo set the journal on the table, its leather cover cracked and soft, like it had been handled too much. Okay, he said, opening it to the first page. Let's see what this thing's about. The handwriting was spidery, uneven, like it had been written in a hurry or by someone who didn't care about legibility. The ink was faded in places, smudged in others, but the words were readable enough under the candlelight. The first entry was dated June 12, 1968. The forest listens. It's not like people listen, with ears and thoughts. It's deeper, like it's pulling your words out of you, keeping them. I heard it last night, after the rain started. A tapping, like it's trying to get in, or out. Jade's skin prickled. The words too close to their own night. That's a broken bar specific, she said, glancing at the others. Anyone else getting DA till the copyright Yahoo? Nora leaned over Milo's shoulder, her thumbnail back between her teeth. Keep reading. What's it mean? At the forest listens. Milo turned the page, the paper crackling. The next entry was a week later, June 19, 1968. The coincidence of the tag exactly 57 years ago to the dial made Jade's stomach twist, but she didn't say anything. Milo read aloud, his voice soft but clear. The tapes are the key. I started recording the sounds, the ones you can't hear unless you're quiet. The rain helps, drowns out the noise in your head, but the forest doesn't like being recorded. The tapes keep a broken bar changing. Words I didn't say, voices I don't know. I hid them in the closet, but I can still hear them at night. Kai's fingers paused on the Rubik's Cube he pulled from his pocket. That's why the tapes are weird, he said. The murmurs, the skips, someone was trying to capture a broken bar something. Nora snorted, but it was nervous, not dismissive. What? Like the forest has a podcast? This is nuts. Jade ignored her, leaning closer to the journal. Keep going, Milo. What else? The next few pages were messier, the handwriting more frantic, interspersed with sketch of some more moonlight symbols, jagged lines, and what looked like trees but with branches that twisted into spirals. One entry, undated, stood out. It's not just the forest. The cabin knows too. The walls, the windows, they're part of it. I carved the signs to keep it out, but it's still here. It wants to be heard. The tapping is louder now. Always when the rain comes. I don't sleep anymore. I listen. Milo stopped, his finger hovering over the word listen. The candlelight caught his eyes, white and unblinking. This guy was losing it, he said. Or a broken bar. Maybe he wasn't. The tapping started again, faint but unmistakable, coming from the wall behind the couch. Top a broken bar tap, top a broken bar tap. It was slower this time, almost patient, like it was waiting for them to notice. Nora stood, backing away from the wall. Okay, that's not a coincidence. That's not pipes or wind or whatever. That's something. Kai set the Rubik's Cube down, his cum cracking just enough to show. Let's not jump to ghosts yet, he said, but he was staring at the wall too. His jaw tight. Could be an animal. Squirrel, maybe. In the walls? Nora shot back, in sync with a creepy journal from the A60s. Come on, Kai. Jade's eyes were on the journal, the sketches of the moon symbols burning into her mind. They were the same as the ones on the cassette, the same as the faint marks she thought she saw on the trapdoor. The carvings, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He said he carved signs to keep it out. The scratches in the cellar are a broken bar. Those are the signs. Milo flipped to another page, his hands shaking slightly. The sketch there was clear, a circle with a crescent inside, surrounded by jagged lines like a barrier. Below it, in shaky handwriting, the signs don't work forever. It finds a way in. The tapping grew louder, more insistent, moving from the wall to the ceiling, like it was circling them. Jade's candle flickered, the flame dipping low, and for a second, the room felt colder, like the air had been sucked out. The rain outside was a constant roar now, blurring the line between sound and silence. We need to check the walls, Kai said, standing. If there are carvings down there, maybe there are more up here. Something to explain this. Nora shook her head, her pink hair catching the candlelight. Or we could, leave, like normal people. No car, Milo reminded her, his voice flat. We walked from the bus stop, remember? And it's pouring. We're stuck till morning. Jade grabbed the second candle, her heart pounding but her hands steady. Kai's right. Let's look. If this place is trying to tell us something, we need to know what. They split up, each taking a section of the main room. Jade ran her fingers along the wall near the window. The wood rough under her touch. The candlelight caught faint lines, barely visibly more scratches, some forming the moon symbol, others just chaotic, like someone had clawed at the wood in a panic. Kai checked the wall by the couch, finding similar marks, while Milo traced the fireplace, his fingers lingering on a carved crescent half hidden under soot. Nora stayed by the table, flipping through the journal now, her eyes scanning the pages. "Listen to this," she said, her voice tight. "It's from 1970. I tried to burn the tapes, but they wouldn't burn. The forest won't let them go. It's in the walls now, in the wood. It's in me." Jade froze, her hand on a scratch that felt too deep, too deliberate. "In the wood?" She repeated. "What does that mean?" The tapping stopped again, but this time, the silence was different and thicker, like the cabin was holding something back. The candles flickered in unison, and the rain seemed to pause, just for a second, before starting again, heavier than before. Milo closed the journal, his face pale. "I think we should stop reading for a bit," he said. "This ice or broken bar a lot." Kai nodded, stepping back from the wall. "Yeah, let's just sit, okay? No tapes, no journal, just a broken bar chill." But chilling felt impossible now. The scratches, the journal, the tapping, that it was all too connected, too real. Jade set her candle on the table, trying to focus on the flame, but her eyes kept drifting to the windows, to the dark beyond. She thought of the journal's words. The cabin knows too. It didn't feel like just a cabin anymore. It felt like a listener, waiting for them to speak. Nora broke the silence, her voice softer now. "You think it's still out there?" Whatever Nora saw in the rain, nobody answered right away. The tapping didn't return, but the scratches on the walls seemed to glow in the candlelight, like they were watching. Jade picked up the journal again, despite Milo's suggestion, and opened it to a random page. The words were simple, scrawled in a hurry. "It's not the forest, it's us. We brought it here." The rain roared on, and the cabin creaked, and somewhere in the walls, something waited. The cabin felt smaller now, its walls closing in under the weight of the rain and the flickering candlelight. The scratches on the wood are those moon-like symbols, and frantic claw marks seemed to pulse in the dim glow, as if the cabin itself was alive, listening. The journal lay open on the table, its final words burning in Jade's mind. "It's not the forest, it's us. We brought it here." The tapping had stopped, but the silence was worse, heavy with the sense that something was waiting, just out of sight. Milo, Nora, Kay, and Jade sat in a loose circle around the table, the two candles their only anchors in the dark. Nora broke the quiet, her voice sharp but shaky. "Okay, I'm done. We need to figure this out or get the hell out. I don't care if it's raining or we have to walk 5 miles to the bus stop. This place is wrong." Milo, slouched on the couch, clutched his sketchbook like a shield. "We can't just leave," he said, his eyes flicking to the journal. "Not without knowing what's going on. That book, A Broken Bar, it's talking about us. Like, not literally. It's a broken bar, you read it. It's like we're part of something." Kay, leaning against the wall, twisted his Rubik's Cube absently, the colors long since solved but his fingers restless. "He's right," he said. "The journal, the tapes, the scratches, it's all connected." The tapping stopped when we found the book, like it wanted us to read it. Jade's fingers traced the edge of the journal, the leather cool and worn under her touch. The lavender scent of her sweater was gone now, drowned out by the cabin's musty air. "The last entry said we brought it here," she said quietly. "What if it's not about the cabin or the forest? What if it's a broken bar, us, like something we did, or something we're carrying?" Nora snorted, but her thumbnail was back between her teeth. "What? Like we're cursed?" "Come on, Jade. We're just a bunch of college kids on a dumb weekend trip. We didn't bring anything except snacks and bad playlists." But Jade wasn't so sure. The journal's words felt too personal, too pointed. She flipped back to an earlier page, the one with a sketch of the cabin and the shadowy figures in the windows. The figures weren't clear or smudged, like they'd been drawn in a hurry, but they had a shape, a presence, that made her skin crawl. 4 of them, standing at the glass, watching. "Look at this," she said, holding the journal up. 4 figures, 4 of us. "It's not a coincidence." Milo leaned forward, squinting at the sketch. "Okay, that's creepy," he admitted, his pencil tapping his knee. But it's from the A60s. Whoever drew this wasn't drawing us. Maybe it's just a broken bar, I don't know. A pattern, like, this place repeats itself. Kai set the Rubik's Cube down, his eyes narrowing. Repeats itself, he echoed, like a loop. The tapes, the rain, the tapping, it's all on repeat. Maybe that's what the journal means. We're stuck in it now. Nora stood, pacing to the window and back. The rain was relentless, a gray curtain blurring the world outside. So what? We're in a time loop, a ghost loop. This is insane. I just wanted a chill weekend, not a paranormal TED Talk. Jade ignored her, flipping to another page. The handwriting was messier here, the words almost illegible, but one sentence stood out, scrawled in bold ink. To stop it, you have to listen, really listen. It's in the silence. She read it aloud, her voice steady despite the chill running down her spine. Listen to what? Milo asked, his pencil still now. The tapping, the tapes, the rain? Kai moved to the cassette player, its silence louder than the music had been. Maybe the tapes, he said. The journal said they were the key. The guy was recording something, trying to capture it. Maybe we need to hear what he heard. Nora groaned, throwing her hands up. You want to play the creepy whisper tape again? After it freaked us out? No way. But Jade was already nodding, her hand reaching for the night cassette, the one with the moon doodle. Kai's right, she said. We've been reacting to everything a tapping, scratches, the journal, but we haven't really listened. Maybe that's what it wants. What it wants, Nora said, her voice rising. You're talking like the forest is alive or something. Maybe it is, Milo said quietly, his eyes on his sketchbook. He'd started drawing again, the pencil moving and quick, jagged strokes, outlining the cabin's walls, the scratches, the moon symbols. Or maybe it's not the forest, maybe it's the cabin, or us. I don't know, but I'm tired of guessing. Kai picked up the cassette, sliding it into the player. We listen, he said, all the way through. No stopping, no freaking out. If it's nothing, we'll know. If it's something, a broken bar, real deal. Nora crossed her arms, sinking into the beanbag. Fine, but if I hear one more whisper, I'm smashing that thing. Jade lit the second candle again, its flame stronger now, as if the cabin was giving them a little more light to work with. Kai pressed play, and the familiar guitar riff started, slow and warbling, like it was coming from underwater. The group sat in silence, the rain a steady backdrop, the candlelight flickering over their faces. The guitar faded into that low hum, the one that wasn't quite a voice but wasn't just static either. This time, they didn't flinch when it skipped. When the murmur started, they leaned in, listening. The murmur was clearer now, not words but a rhythm, a cadence, like a chant or a prayer. It rose and fell, weaving into the rain, into the creaks of the cabin. Jade closed her eyes, trying to focus, to really listen as the journal said. The sound wasn't coming from the player alone, yet it was in the air, in the walls, in the space between them. It was like the cabin was singing, soft and endless, a song that had been going on for years. Do you hear that? Milo whispered, his pencil frozen mid-stroke. It's a broken bar, it's like a pattern, like the tapping. Jade nodded, her eyes still closed. The murmur was the tapping, the scratches, the rain, all of it, layered together, looping like the lo-fi tracks they played earlier. It wasn't threatening, not exactly, but it was insistent, like it needed them to understand. Kai's voice was low, almost reverent. It's telling us something, not words. With a broken bar feeling, like it's stuck. Nora's thumbnail was bleeding now. A small red smear on her lip. Stuck how? Like a ghost stuck? A forest stuck? What are we even dealing with? Jade opened her eyes, the candlelight catching the journal's open page. It's us, she said, the words coming before she could stop them. Like the journal said, we brought it here. Our broken bar noise, our thoughts, our voices, the forest, the cabinet. It's been listening, holding on to everything, and now it's playing it back. Milo's pencil started moving again, sketching the moon symbol, but bigger, its lines flowing into the cabin's walls, into the forest beyond. Like a tape, he said. It recorded us, not just the guy in the A60s, but everyone who's been here, and it's still playing. The murmur grew louder, not overwhelming but clearer, like a radio tuning in. Jade thought she heard fragments of their own voice as Nora's laugh, Kai's calm tone, Milo's quiet muttering, her own hesitant questions. They were faint, woven into the hum, like echoes of a conversation they hadn't finished. Kai stood, moving to the window. "If it's us," he said, "then maybe we can stop it, give it what it wants." "And what's that?" Nora asked, her voice small now. Jade looked at the journal, the words listened and silence standing out. "We stopped talking," she said. "We stopped moving, stopped reacting. We just a broken bar. Listen, really listen." The idea felt right, but it also felt heavy, like stepping into a void. The group exchanged looks, the candlelight making their faces look older, worn. Milo set his pencil down, closing his sketchbook. Nora wiped the blood from her thumb, nodding slowly. Kai turned from the window, his hands still for the first time all night. "Okay," Jade said, taking a deep breath. "No talking, no moving, just listen." They sat in silence, the cassette player still humming, the rain a steady roar. The candles burned low, their flames steady now, as if the cabin approved. The murmur filled the room, not just from the player but from everywhere, the walls, the floor, the windows. It was their voices, their laughter, their fears, but older, layered with other voices, other nights, other rains. The cabin was a tape, the forest a recorder, and they were just the latest track. Jade closed her eyes again, letting the sound wash over her. It wasn't scary anymore, not really, just sad, like a memory that couldn't let go. She saw flashes in her mind, a man in the A60s, carving symbols to keep the forest out of family in the A80s, laughing by the fireplace a lone hiker in the A90s, recording tapes to capture the silence. They'd all been here, all left something behind, and the cabin had kept it, looping it endlessly. The murmur softened, fading into the rain, and the tapping didn't return. The candles burned lower, the wax pooling on the table. When Jade opened her eyes, the others were watching her, their faces calm but tired, like they'd heard it too. "Is it over?" Nora whispered, breaking the silence. Kai nodded, his eyes on the window. The rain was slowing, the sky lighter, like dawn was creeping in. "I think so," he said. We listened. "It's done." Milo opened his sketchbook, the moon symbol now surrounded by soft, flowing lines, like it was dissolving. "It wasn't trying to hurt us," he said. "It just wanted to be heard." Jade closed the journal, her fingers lingering on the cover. "We should leave the tapes," she said, "and the journal. Let them stay here." Nobody argued. They packed their things in silence, the candles finally guttering out as the first gray light filtered through the windows. The rain had stopped, leaving only the drip of water from the eaves. The cabin felt quieter now, not empty but the broken bar settled, like it had said what it needed to. They stepped outside, the forest damp and still, the air fresh with pine and earth. The trees didn't lean in anymore, they just stood, silent, watching. The group walked the path back to the bus stop, their footsteps soft on the wet ground, none of them looking back. The cabin stayed behind, its scratches and tapes waiting for the next visitors, the next voices to record. And somewhere in the forest, the silence listened.